If you're gonna just vote for a blue donkey or a red elephant, stay home. You need to understand who you're voting for, and you need to understand the things that that person is willing to is putting in place once he gets that seat. What's up, YouTube? This is HT, aka Higher Thinking, here to remind you to please stop at Dr. Claud Anderson's YouTube channel and watch his videos, right? Watch it unsnipped and unclipped and show some support, man. Stop at the comment section and just leave some roses because he deserves it, right? He's dedicated his entire life to being a warrior for a disenfranchised group of people, and that his work is not ending with him, that remind him that he's cultivated the next generation of warriors that's willing to continue the fight that he's left off on, right? So please stop by and show him some love. And in the meantime, enjoy this video.
Now, and we try to pick things anywhere between historical issues and present day issues, and to either go backwards and connect the dots or come forward and connect the dots, but all of them relate to anything that is substance and that would significantly impact Black Americans or Native Black Americans. Now, this week, there was an article out where they're talking about Trump has gained among Black voters since the 2016 election. Why? And everybody expressing curiosity how Donald Trump could have such a high negative rating among the general population, but yet why he's picking up some Black support. It's very simple. It's very simple. Whether you're a politician or non-politician, there are two reasons. The first reason is because Donald Trump went back and picked up a lot of things that I put into a newsletter way back and was sent to Obama about what he should be doing in this country, in particular for Black folk. That was very important. Donald Trump picked up a lot of those things and used them in his campaign in 2016. And then one of the major things he said,
Donnie, you can't just be you can't listen to Dr. Claud Anderson and you can't know who he is and ignore the solutions Dr. Claud Anderson is presenting. You feel me? This does say a lot about Don, though, especially with that platinum plan. I know I'm in my last video regarding the platinum plan, and I did make note to wonder, right? I did pose the question that a lot of this stuff falls in line with what Dr. Claud Anderson is kind of promoting. But let's not forget that platinum plan came long after, I believe, the 2016 election, which is what I believe this is kind of focusing. This 2016 election.
And in doing it was this. He took this statement about Donald Trump asked Black voters, "You need to vote to me, but what in the hell else you got to lose?"
Yeah, he did say that during his 2016 election.
Black folk didn't have anything to lose in 2016. You know why? Because neither the Republican Party nor the Democratic Party was doing anything of substance for Black folk.
That's true.
They never have.
That's true.
The Democratic Party is the original party was enslaving Blacks all for 360 years.
That's true.
So they were enriching themselves off of Black labor and paying Black folk out to do nothing. But Blacks were just suffering and slaves. No food, no clothes, no family, no land, no ownership.
No anything, but all the power, all the success went to the Democrats. I know blacks did vote Republican for a long period of time. Lyndon B. Johnson, there you go. So check, peep game. See that? Did LBJ say I'll have those Negroes, right, voting Democrat for the next 200 years? He says unproven. Multiple sources kind of point that he has said this. Hey, if you want to believe this is unproven, go ahead and do your research. If y'all want, I can do a deep dive myself if you really want me to. That's definitely something that happened. Aligned himself with Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement, and more or less got Black folks voting Democrat for going on 200 years.
Ownership, no wealth, no power, no resources, no rights, no privileges. And so that was a Democratic Party, the old Democratic Party. It was the same Democratic Party that stayed in existence all the way up until about the 1950s. When they decided to switch clothes and go and call themselves Republicans because they were totally opposed to social integration that was on the horizon going to come to the Democratic Party.
Okay, there you go. So it was the 1950s when that big switch happened. Interesting. I know there's a lot of right wingers want to say this big switch never happened, and I never really believed it. I mean, you can kind of just look at you can kind of look at it. Look at the people. I mean, like I said, like the Klan were founded as Democrats, but I never heard it have anybody explain to me why this switch happened. And Dr. Anderson here explained it because they didn't like this social integration. So makes perfect. Yeah, that makes sense because I can see how they can align with whatever the Democrats have been more or less preaching around that time. But as soon as civil rights started rolling around, oh yeah, this things changed around. That I would say the civil rights era would be a good enough reason to get a large majority of racist people to turn coat, to change, essentially jump ship.
And what the real conservatives said is that we don't want to be in that party with those black folk that we've been enslaving for 360 years. So let's abandon the Democratic Party and become the new Republican Party.
Yeah.
And that's how so the new Republican Party is the old Confederate states from the South. And when you see on a voting map, look at your voting map. All those red states in the South, that's the Confederate South. They boasted for years that the South would rise again. And they did. They rose. They rose under Donald Trump. No president in the history of the United States has ever done anything substantially, specifically, and solely for help black folk. Never. Not from George Washington all the way up to Donald Trump. None of them. Black, white, the few black, never done anything for black folk. Now that defeats the whole purpose of politics. Politics is a very simple process that says, I will define for you on who's going to get the benefits out of life. It's based on a simple premise of quid pro quo. One hand washes the other. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yes, sir.
You vote for me, I'll support you and do something for you.
Yes, sir.
Black people are the only people that have never played politics to win.
Yes, sir.
And that's why they wound up now supporting.
We play politics for inclusivity. Is that inclusivity? Inclusivity? Maybe I should look that word up too.
Donald Trump and politics. The present day politics didn't even come into existence until the 1500s. And it came in based on economics. Economics will control politics every time. Politics controls nothing. It's the economic base behind politics that controls it.
Yes, sir.
So the same conservatives during slavery that had all the wealth in the South, most of the wealth of the nation was confined to the South during slavery.
Yes, sir. And that's what I'm saying. Like, in my opinion, right, if black folk want to rise to power, it is in our best interest to get that wealth up first. You know what I'm saying? With the wealth comes influence.
Prior to Trump getting elected to office.
My bad. I got Huey looking all short. My bad, Huey.
The typical vote for since 1960, when the whites shifted from the Democratic Party to become Republicans, Republicans have not since never gotten more than about 2%. Only 2% of the national vote for the Republican Party. But back in his last 2016 election, based on his promise saying, I suggested he would do something for black folk, and he used a lot of the things that I suggested in my articles, my newsletter in 2012 for Barack Obama. He picked up a lot of those things, and he said, I'll do something for y'all. And so blacks went out and supported him. And the amount of vote he got from the black Americans at that point jumped from 2% up to about 9%. And that was a big jump. And ironically, that's the jump that made him the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Donald Trump got elected on the backs of native black Americans.
Yeah, that's about it. You know what? He's right. He's onto something. March Tour invited a predominantly black panel to essentially discuss how Republicans can essentially reach out to blacks. And I mean, for the most part, it was more or less like, hey, come visit us. You know what I'm saying? Come to the hood. You know what I mean? He was because Republicans don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, Republicans don't come to the hood. They don't talk to blacks. They don't want to hear what blacks got to say they don't want to hear our voice. You know what I'm saying? And he was more or less saying like, hey, just come out and talk to us, and you'd be surprised at the turnout. And Donald Trump, that's what he did. Like, he even though it was corny as a mug, like, he got a bunch of church folks on, and he got some black guys dancing, all that stuff, and Salt and Pepper, whatever them broads name, them young ladies' names was, And then what's that? The conservative thug guy. No comment. Rest in peace. But yeah, no comment. He got all these black faces, right, to essentially bolster his campaign, and it seemed like it worked. I mean, he said, Dr. Claud Anderson says the black turnout went from 2% vote Republicans to 9% of the Donald Trump. Like, that's not like the biggest black representation ever. You know what I mean?
In this country, that's where he got the vote from. That's the difference. That's 75,000 votes he got to make the difference. That's where he got it from. And now, but he has not delivered on black folk. Now people are saying, well, what do we got to do to change it? Or back to the Democratic Party. I'm not sure you'll ever be able to change it unless the Democratic Party, which now is the Liberal Party, quit playing games. See, the Democratic Party has never, the new Democratic Party that came in 1950 had never done anything significant black folk. They play all these ambiguous games about, well, we got to represent all people. Yep. All people is not your backbone of your party. The backbone of the present Democratic Party is 38% black.
Yep.
They have never done anything for black folk.
Yep.
They always talk about what they're going to do for gays and women and Arabs and midgets and Hispanics and Asians and midgets and everybody but black folk.
He be killing with the midget one. So, yeah, man. Ali just made a post. Ali just made a post about this, and this is what them not doing debates in the Democratic National Convention tells me. First of all, it tells me, well, when I put this out on Facebook, I noticed that nobody gave a damn. I had a couple comments, no likes, I believe, and yeah, and I got a friends list of like over 1,000. I got over 1,000 friends on my Facebook, right? And I put it on the book. Hey, see, can anybody got to say anything to say about this? No, not a peep. You know what I mean? And the majority of my friends on Facebook are Democrats, right? But nobody cares. You know what I'm saying? But this is what this tells me. Last time, what happened? What happened? Okay, Kamala Harris. During like the later stages of like the Democratic side of the runnings and stuff like that, and the election and all that stuff, Kamala Harris made a pretty good case for Joe Biden being a racist. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like he worked hand in hand with like a segregationist and stuff like that, and it made Kamala Harris' life a little bit more difficult. Sound like, like I said, it was a pretty damn good case, but like Joe Biden ended up winning. He ended up beating out Kamala Harris, and he ends up turning Kamala Harris into his running mate or his vice president. You know what I mean? And it's like, it was just kind of weird, right? Because like just like a month ago or whatever, you were saying like, hey, you're a racist, and you're making all these, you're kind of putting all this shade, throwing all this shade at Joe Biden, and then all of a sudden you turn around and found out that now you kind of kissing his butt. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of weird. Like, dude, like lady, like, I don't know. This just kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, But on the other hand, on the Republican side of things, nobody's really throwing shade at each other. Nobody's really calling each other racist, even though they are racist. But they are not gonna sit there and throw each other under the bus like that. And I feel like Democrats have seen the error of what can come from having debates. Like, they essentially don't want to like shit on each other. You know what I mean? They don't want to give their enemies ammo, right? It's a way of feigning accountability, right? If they're no longer doing debates, right? This means that okay. I'm not gonna say it's completely absolving themselves of accountability. I can't say that per se, right? But what I can say is there's gonna be no more cases of them outing each other and throwing and holding each other accountable on a public platform, and that is bad, right? So that means that it's because like that's something I look forward to with the presidential debates and stuff like that. I wasn't like the biggest political person when I was a big gamer, but at the same time, I always made time to check out that debate. You know what I mean? Because that's where that's where that's where the action was, right? That was like the most important. That was like the most interesting part of the presidential elections and all that stuff. It was like it was all about that debate. You know what I mean? But with these people doing less debates, if they're doing no debates on their side, it's it's a like I said, in my eyes, it's them finding a tricky little way of moving out of yeah, like I said earlier, feigning accountability. It is, and like I said, there's a lot of people that don't believe in debates. I know, like I said, the left wing or the leftist space of YouTube, the bread tube guys, they don't like the debates and all that stuff for their own reasons and stuff. I'm not going to get into all of that, but ultimately, I think debates is a healthy thing. It is a good thing, and it's a way for everybody, especially politicians, the people that really do matter, right, to hold each other accountable.
Well, this year, about that 9%, that 8 to 9% that switched and went over Donald Trump, they might not never see him again, because increasingly more and more blacks start becoming independents.
Yes. And which is a great thing. Which is a great thing. I strongly urge every black American to be at least be independent. If we can't make our own political party, I strongly encourage all black Americans to be independent. What that means is you're on the fence, and the people that work the hardest will earn your vote, right? You're not automatically throwing your vote at one political party because they're your favorite. No, that's not how we're supposed to be voting. We're supposed to be paying attention throughout the entire process of the electoral of these electoral runs. We should be voting from the beginning to the very end, and not just at the very end, right?
Unless these political parties quit shucking and jiving. And what I would suggest to the black voters across this country, you make up about 38% of the Democratic Party. Start demanding. You have never demanded anything from any party.
Not as a group, and we need to do this as a group.
Black American, the black voters have never demanded anything from either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. They demand nothing, and that's exactly what they get. What you got to say now is that, okay, if we're going to pull out of both parties. And say,
my bad, Huey. This dude mad at me, man.
Or a Republican.
Sorry, Huey.
We don't care about either one of them. We're going to create our own black independent party. And when we create it, we're going to vote as a block.
Yeah.
Across this nation. Well, we're going to vote strong for nationally, maybe a 27%, about a 25 or 27% national base, and the Democratic Party itself, about a 38% black base. And so we're going to vote for whoever promises the most and delivers the black vote. And if nobody do it, we'll do it. We're going to create a black independent party. We're not going to run into candidates shuck and jive like most of you do. Mm-hmm. We're going to simply say we were promised to vote in a block for whoever promised the most and delivers the black vote in tangible terms. We're not going to vote any longer for anybody promising all these platitudes about we got to move to be higher engine. We got to save the world. We got to save the nation. We got to save poor people.
We gotta focus on ourselves first. Like, black people are, for as long as if we've been in America, we should have a much higher standing. We should have a much better share of the United States wealth than what we currently have. So I am with them in saying that we need to be voting for our own interests primarily. The interests of these global interests that Joe Biden and the rest of the Democrats have been participating heavily in. It's cool and all of that stuff. I'm not gonna go on record and say I'm completely against it, but I don't like the idea of them putting those other people ahead of black Americans.
We got to save the crippled, deaf, and blind. Has nothing to do with black folk. Black folk have never voted on their own self-interest. They always want to vote on a very simple premise. There are two kinds of voters. There are those who are in politics and who understand the nature of politics. Politics, if you're going into the voting arena, it's a race, it's a contest. And in that race, people vote for two kinds of, either for the strongest, or they voted for the ones who the thoroughbred horses, like in a horse race. Whichever horse is going to come in first, second to place.
Yeah.
And so most people vote along those lines. Except for our people, black people, they're not in their thoroughbred. They don't get their vote for self-interest about who's gonna come in first. They get over and vote on the other side. The other side of the kind of vote you call jackass. They just vote for anybody. Whoever promise nothing to them, they'll vote for them and carry their water. There's an old saying in farming which says, the biggest fool will carry the heaviest load. But I tell black folk, quit carrying everybody else's load. Quit voting for everybody else. Vote strictly for your own self-interest first.
Yes, sir.
That's what Jews are going to do. Jews are going to vote for whatever's in the best interest of Jews.
Be careful with that one, Claude. Be careful there, buddy. You're going to get demonetized.
Arabs going to vote for who are in the best interest of Arabs. Hispanics going to vote for their best interest.
Yeah, and boy, Hispanics are definitely doing that. Look what they're doing in Texas. Again, they coming together. They coming together and they're voting Republican down there in Texas, man. They're heavily helping out DeSantis, man. Like the guy's just Latino. That's all they need. You know what I'm saying? And here they come voting Republican. I mean, it's something else. They probably, I mean, DeSantis are probably. I'm thinking about to make a joke, but no, I have heard of Latinos supporting building the wall. So it's like, these people, like, I don't know. I personally don't know what they're offering them. You know what I'm saying? But that's what's going on here. I know in Chicago, the mayors have been not just Lori Lightfoot, but also Brandon Johnson are essentially inviting Latino or some Mexicans into Chicago and, you know, just helping them out. You know what I mean? What I do like about Brandon Johnson, which is something that we didn't hear from Lori Lightfoot, is he does plan on helping blacks, not just Mexicans or Latinos, but also blacks in Chicago also. So, hey, if you can find a way to help both communities, then hey, I'm cool. I'm completely fine with that. Like I said, you're not gonna hear me being. I'm not gonna preach anything that's anti anybody else. I just don't like when blacks are left behind, because that's essentially what's been happening throughout the history of the United States of America.
And everybody, the women are gonna vote for their best interest. Everybody would do it except black folk.
Yeah.
Because see, black folk don't understand the game. Playing the game. They let a lot of tricksters trick them in the wrong way, saying, well, you shouldn't go vote for any along the lines of your self-interest. You should be willing to vote for any and everybody, because you don't know, the world might get blown up, or the economy might collapse.
Yeah.
This is what black folks should be saying. That's fine. That's fine. If somebody in a political party want to blow up the world and depress the economy, let them do it. Let the people who have the most to lose worry about the world being blown up, what's going to be lost. Black folk are only 2% of the wealth in the nation. That is the least thing that you should be worried about. Don't be worried about, let those who got the most to lose, let them worry about saving the world. You worry about how to save black people in this country.
Yes, sir.
Black folk have about a $1.3 trillion annual disposable income. You learn how to start practicing group economics in a race-based society.
I think a lot of group economics is going to have to come by way of the poor blacks being helped by the elite blacks. I think some people like to call them the boule, what do you want to call it? But the elite blacks, that's essentially like the powerhouses of entertainment and stuff like that. I'm just saying, like, I do, and I am aware that there's a lot of help. There is a lot of help from a lot of rappers, some athletes, entertainers in general. They are helping, right? But in order for us to really push this thing forward, for like it's essentially recreate Black Wall Street, right? Because that should be like the whole goal of Black Americans. Is gonna, like I said, it's gonna come from the elite. You know what I mean? It's gonna have to be a big push from the elites amongst our communities, amongst our culture. And I don't like what else are they doing with their money, man? You know what I mean? They buy these massive houses, they buy all these luxury cars. They don't want to build the community, right? That's what we should be focused on. But hey, it's just a suggestion.
A race means you're competing, and quit listening to people tell you that in a race you're supposed to be concerned about equality. There is no equality in a race-based society. There's no equality in a foot race.
Never will be.
A horse race.
I mean, dude, it won't be equality. It will never be equality. It's literally impossible. It will never, ever, ever freaking happen. White folks make up around 60% of the United States population. Black folks make it about somewhere between 12 and 14%. Maybe just a smidge higher, since we know a lot of black folks don't want to participate in the U.S. Census. And then other genealogies of people or ethnicities are even lower than that, or maybe a little bit higher if you want to talk about Latinos. United States will never be equal. The population size alone won't allow that to happen. So it's in everybody's best interest to just look out for themselves primarily, unless you're white, because y'all already the shit. Y'all already got a lot going on, and y'all already in charge. They're more or less gonna look out for themselves regardless. They're already completely covered already. Like again, they're 60% of the United States population, and they hold 90% of the wealth. And so, like, if their rich don't want to help out their poor, then I mean, I don't know. That's on them, but that's not gonna stop. That shouldn't stop other groups of other nationalities of people for fighting for their groups.
That's like a race, an automobile race. Nobody's going racing for equality. They're racing to create inequality.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know everybody stars out, but whoever comes in first wins. But only black people be taught.
Whoever comes in first wins, and what I will correct them. I'm gonna correct them into saying this. It's not necessarily whoever comes first wins. It's who's the last to laugh. You feel me? It's the group of people that is the last to survive, because when ish hits the fan, whatever that may be, it could be a meteorite, right? It can be anything. Whichever group of people has the resources to build a rocket ship to fly off the planet and settle on Mars, which is what they're working on. Pay attention to what Elon Musk has got going on. They're trying to make a rocket ship just exploded that was supposed to be powerful enough to land on Mars vertically. You know what I'm saying? And it was supposed to be it was supposed to be large enough to fit 100 people and transport 100 tons of cargo, something along those lines. But yeah, they're working on intergalactic travel. You feel me? So I'm just putting it out there.
Well, you got to get in this race, but you keep looking back and try to make sure everybody's staying with you and y'all come in together. That is foolish. That has nothing to do with politics.
Yep.
Politics decides who will get what benefits. We have not been getting benefits all these years because we keep trying to look for equality.
Yeah.
Among in a race, it cannot be done.
Yeah, and it's not just equality for us. A lot of us. I mean, if we're gonna align ourselves with certain groups of people, I want to say. I mean, it could be Democrats or Republicans. I mean, Republicans will argue that they're arguing for equality also, right? They'll tell you that, but what they just don't understand is there's a thing called equity and there's a thing called debt. You feel me? Yeah, they're not trying for fairness, right?
Because unless you redistribute the resources in the black folk hand, there'll never be any equality.
Right.
But that's the whole nature of politics, is to be able to get benefits. Don't let anybody tell you that when you go to vote this coming year or in the fall for the next president, that you should be voting based on exercising your rights.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to the poll to exercise rights.
Yes.
You go to the poll to get benefits. Benefits. You don't go there to exercise any rights. If you want to get exercise, go to the gymnasium, take out a membership, or you go put on your jogging clothes and jog around the park someplace.
Yeah, get some gains. Get some gains. Go if you want to exercise, go outside and get some gains. Lift some weights. That you want to exercise, do that. But exercising your right to vote, nonsense. This is gonna be a hot take. Be prepared. Be prepared. This is gonna be a hot take, and I apologize for making people mad. All right, but this is how I feel about this whole exercising your right to vote. No, you have to vote effectively. You can't vote because somebody told you to vote. Don't do that. You're wasting everybody's time. You're not necessarily just wasting your vote. You're essentially making it harder for the people that actually vote for a purpose. If we actually started a black party, and the only way for the person that represents the black party to be elected effectively, in order for this thing to work, right, we're gonna have to put every serious voter into this individual, right? We have to really push them forward, really take so he can take off, so he can essentially have a fighting chance against like the more powerful Democrats and more powerful Republicans. Unfortunately, if this is too much, I mean, it's really just the media, man. Like the main reason all this money needs to be dumped into these political campaigns, into this exposure, into all these the travel and all that stuff, is because the rich and all that stuff, like the more powerful, the more visible politicians are the ones with the bread, right? But the people that really want to see the right changes happen, they seek out the right politicians to represent them in these elections. But unfortunately, dating back from the beginning of politics, the more popular guy wins. And it's not, unfortunately, the more popular guy isn't necessarily the person that's actually best for the job. He's just the most popular. You feel me? And that's more or less the biggest problem with politics. That's like the biggest issue with all this right now. It's a popularity contest, but it's not necessarily a contest of actual skill and merit, right? Or moral compass. It's the guy with the most bread. That's the guy with the most availability to sit down with all of these people and it can convince them of why they're the best guy. And I feel like there's a problem in that. So the reason I say this is because it is to the fault of the voters that's voting for the sake of voting, of why we can't get proper people into these seats. If you want to vote, you need to take you need to do your proper due diligence. You need to be voting from the very beginning. You feel me? You need to find the right person that best represents you and your group, and stick with that person through thick and thin, and not just vote for him, but also bolster him. Spread awareness of this person. Let him like, if I were to vote for president, if I were to run for president, I need everybody to essentially talk about me. Let the will of the people bolster or be my advertisement. You know what I'm saying? Because if you understand me to be like the best guy for the job, it should be to the will of the people to elevate that person to the highest pedestal. But just giving the job to the guy that you like the most because he has the prettiest smile, or he kisses the babies and all that stuff, is complete lunacy. It's horrible way of going about voting. And again, stay home. If that's the way you're gonna vote, if you're gonna just vote for a blue donkey or a red elephant, stay home. You need to understand who you're voting for, and you need to understand the things that person is willing to is putting in place once he gets that seat. It's the only way this stuff is gonna work. My opinion.
You want to exercise, but never go to the darn polls talking about you want exercise. At least what others said with Dr. Anderson. Okay. I think that's bad advice, because a lot of
I'm going to exercise my right to not exercise. Okay, Chief. Okay, Chief.
People gave their lives for the right to vote. No black person ever intentionally gave his life up for somebody to vote.
Yeah.
He may have had his life taken from him. He didn't voluntarily allow himself to be killed just so he can have a right to vote.
Claud Anderson is a really funny dude, man. He takes like these really throwaway talking pieces, and then he just flips it on his head. He kind of does this a lot. Literally nobody died for it. I think that's what it is. He just take these little throwaway talk pieces and takes it into like a more literal stance. I rock with it. He's right though, and he's making a serious point. So, how can you argue against this?
As a matter of fact, the only people in this country that were given specific rights to vote for a short time, that came out of the radical Republicans. That only lasted for about 10 years, from 1865 to 1875, and that was destroyed by when the Democratic Party and the Republican Party merged again to kill off all those benefits.
Yeah.
That's why Reconstruction only lasted 10 years.
Yeah, in case he doesn't talk about it, he might be a radical Republicans were essentially a group of Republicans who were white, who actually had some black mistresses that got in their ear, right, and convinced them to start passing pro-black regulation or pro-black legislation. God bless those queens.
And then during that course, that period started in 1865, they gave you the 15th Amendment to vote. Nobody else has been given the right to vote. Why not? It's simple. You see, whites in general, anybody coming to this country who can pass as whites got their right to vote in the 1st through the 12th Amendment. They got their rights to vote. They didn't have the rights. The only ones the others was pushing for rights to vote were women for a while in the 1850s, but even they had a right to vote, but they couldn't. Most of them couldn't vote because they didn't own property.
Yep.
To be able to vote, you had to own property.
Isn't that amazing?
Throughout history, that all the rights that whites needed was in the 1 through 12th Amendment. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment went into existence strictly to correct the Dred Scott decision and give rights to black folk. That was the purpose of it.
Yep.
They can go vote. That was the 15th Amendment in 1868. Now here black folk are still going out there talking about suppression of the black vote. And who can't vote here and who can't vote there? Are they blocking your right to vote? Are they changing the ballots and throwing and jamming the votes? All this kind of stuff. Forget that. Go look at the 14th Amendment and the second article there. It gave you what I call a nuclear option. It's never been used. The nuclear option in my black labor white wealth and in the Black History Reader, it tells you got an option that's never been exercised. That if anybody blocks your right to vote as a black person, if you understand that the 13th, the 14th, and 15th Amendment was strictly for you, you can go and challenge anything they want and throw out the whole darn election. Go look at the second article in the 14th Amendment that was written strictly solely for black folk. But again, it's going to be hard for you right now because you've been bamboozled by civil rights leaders, black elected officials, and the Supreme Court and other court systems saying, well, those rights are for everybody. And if it's for everybody, you black folk can't use it. But if you're that big a fool and you keep playing around, you're going to lose in politics. You got to go there and vote for your own self-interest. And if you can't get it from the Democratic Party or Republican Party, then build your own independent party and vote as a block for your own interests and whoever promises the most and delivers the most to black folk. That's the way you win in politics.
That's the way you win.
Pro quo, something for something. Don't vote and get nothing. If you ask for nothing and you demand nothing, that's exactly what you're going to get. That's it on vote.
Yep.
I'll see you at the next.
Yeah. Tell them, Dr. Claud Anderson. Yeah, man, quid pro quo, man. They got to scratch our backs first before you vote for them. Simple as that, man. But yeah, that's more or less what happened with Trump, man. He got the big, black folks messed with him because there wasn't black representation in his cabinet. You know what I'm saying? Even though there's a lot of bunch of corny dudes and it wasn't a right crowd, but he has some black visibility in his corner, right? Well, if Republicans want a fighting chance at winning the next election, it's in their best interest to to make us part of the discussion. You know what I'm saying? We went from 2% to 9%. It's dope.